Welcome to Talking Halos. It's Derek Ciapola, my co-host Jared Tims, Nate Green, and some writer guy, James Hirato guy. He's
that's hard.
That's all the intro
just
I
some
need.
writer guy.
That's yeah.
Just some writer guy.
With all my 6 followers on Twitter,
we bring on our first writer, and God knows how long. This is how we're introducing him.
James, pretty much.
Yeah.
All right, that's
you've had writers on before.
I mean, this is how. Ask Brock Davis how things go when he decides to show up for a podcast. It's just if you gotta be around for a while, and honestly, when I'm away, I fully expect Jared and Nate to destroy me when I come back, but they never do. I don't know why, but they never do. So enough about that. We got a lot to talk about because holy crap, the last 48 hours. Before we do, here's a word from our sponsors. All right, so here's the news. The Angels are keeping Shohei Ohtani. That's the first thing. And then minutes after those reports come out last night, July 26th, the word leaks that the Angels are trading for Lucas Giolito, who will now start for them tomorrow night in Toronto. They're not trading Shohei. They made the decision to go for it, which universally almost, I believe, was something that we didn't want them to do. But it's done now. What's done is done. So where do we go from here? I gotta go. I have to go to Nate, Jared. I would normally go to you first, but I can feel the power coming from Nate here. All right, so Nate, where do we go here?
You got to keep going. Like that, you can't just make one move. Ronaldo Lopez is not enough in the bullpen. You got to go get another guy. And we can't play the game of, well, if so-and-so comes back, this team could be better. If this guy, no. Like you've got to put pedal to the metal and just go get another offensive piece, a guy who can play, guy probably could play second base, first base in that area. Guy who might be able to play the outfield. Like, this team needs more help offensively. They are not consistent enough. They need more help in the bullpen. Ronaldo Lopez is not the answer back there. Estevez is throwing the ball well in the right spots. Bachman, hopefully he comes back. Joyce, hopefully he comes back, but we don't know. Like, we can't play the game of, well, if they come back, then this team's going to be really good. If you play that game, it's going to be August 28th, and you're going to be 8 games out of a wild card spot, and it's going to be like, wow, we really messed this thing up. So, if you're going to go all in, get rid of everyone that you possibly can and bring in whatever you possibly can, because this is your one shot.
James, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, your thoughts, sir?
I mean, first, it's the most excited I've been as an Angels fan in a while. I mean, it was so exciting that I had to text my grandfather, who was on a cruise in Norway or something right now, and had to bother him in the middle of the night to tell him. I mean, it's a massive trade, and I mean, I think whether or not they should have traded Ohtani or whether or not they should have gone all in, I'm just glad that they have a direction. Because, like, we're so used to them just, like, kind of like, oh, maybe we're going to buy, maybe we're not. But it's just so nice to be able to say, okay, you know what? We're trying for it this year. Our goal is playoffs, win the World Series. They probably won't do either of those things, but at least they're trying. So
the lack of faith. I find your lack of faith disturbing, Jared.
Lack of faith is interesting here for me, because I've kind of been rejuvenated with a little bit of faith. If, like Nate said, if you're going to do it, you need to do it, right? You can't stop here. You got to keep going. You have arguably the best duo of all time when Trout comes back and gets healthy, to play the game, arguably the best duo. And you have a good 1-2 now. Detmers has looked better. He's been a little inconsistent of late, but he's looked better. Sandoval's been inconsistent, but looks better. I think Giolito takes a lot of stress off that rotation now as well. You don't have to rely on Patrick Sandoval to be that number 2 guy, the guy behind Shohei pitching. You can kind of takes the stress off him. Same thing with Reed Detmers. If you continue to get what you get from Tyler Anderson, you're going to compete in games because the Angels are scoring when he's pitching for some reason. But I had to be, again, slightly talked into this trade a little bit. You're giving up I don't know if I'm going to say good pieces. You gave 2 solid pieces, arguably a top 100 prospect for some, not for others. I think Caro's a backup catcher at the very best. And Kai Bush is a number 4 starter. You gave up 2 pieces.
At the very best.
At the very best. You think that he's probably a number 4 starter, which the Angels already have that, right? The Angels have some catching. The Angels have some catching depth, and they have a plethora of number 4 starters. They've had a plethora of number 4 starters for a while. And you go and you get a guy that you can slide in right behind Lucas Giolito, or not behind Giolito, but right behind Shohei Ohtani, Lucas Giolito. You also got a SoCal guy too, which is always fun, and you get the ability to extend him. It's always fun to get a SoCal guy.
Well, like I'm saying, SoCal-ish
guy. I mean, he's LA. What is it?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like
Santa
ish.
Monica. I think he's Santa Monica, isn't he?
Yeah.
So Harvard, Westlake, yeah, LA, yeah.
I'll say this, and I sat down and I thought this through, and because I mean I'll say it now, and I wanted them to trade Shohei, not because I wanted them to trade Shohei, and that I mean I love the guy. I mean he was great. He's in the watch, but I was convinced he's walking. I'm not so convinced anymore, and I'm not saying look, I'm not one. I'm going to come down hard on some of the Facebook folks right now because it's like. I don't know how I say this. Years ago, when the Rams were getting ready to leave St. Louis, and you guys know I cover the Rams, I wrote this article for Yahoo that just ticked everybody off, and in that article, I basically said they should go back to LA. And before that, I was considered a St. Louis supporter, and these people flipped their lids right and left, and they made this argument about, well, hey, he's Stan Kroenke's a Missouri guy, this, and this, and I'm seeing these same kind of arguments about Shohei. Well, he's an Angels guy, and Japanese culture, they're loyal, and so on and so forth. And you know what? Maybe he is. Maybe that's why he already made the call. I'm not trading. No, I'm not liking what we're getting here. Maybe he's going with the luxury tax for the first time in eons. I don't know if you guys noticed that. So I'm looking at this and going, maybe at this point, I think they're making the commitment to go for Shohei, which nobody here really thought they should be doing. But if things change, if they decide they're going to go luxury tax, all of our arguments in the past have been based off the fact that they weren't going to go luxury tax. Well, what if they are? That changes everything. This is what think about this. Nate, think back to preseason. We were starting to talk about new ownership. And one of the things that we were excited about new ownership was, hey, they'll go with the luxury tax. A new owner, we think would jump in there and take that next step. Well, I know I sound incredibly naive, and maybe I am being naive. Maybe they're making that call because if they're going to stay competitive beyond this year, they're going to have to. Am I wrong?
If you're keeping Ohtani, you have to. But if you're going to do things without Shohei Ohtani, you don't have to. Shohei Ohtani is going to be making $60 million, most likely 55, most likely. And here's my biggest concern long term, and I know this has nothing to do with the trade, but biggest concern long term. You're signing him 8+ years, most likely 10. How many years can he do both? My guess is 3. He's coming up on 30. Now you have 7 years of a dude who can only DH. Maybe he'll play a position. He hasn't really shown a willingness to play a position. Maybe. But all it takes is one TJ, and that dude is not playing a position because he's already had one. So that's my biggest concern. Like, yes, the Angels have to go over the luxury tax and all those things, but if you're signing him, you've got to be committed to building around this dude with young talent that you can't have a Mike Trout and an Anthony Rendon because those guys need off days. They're going to need to DH. They're going to need things like that. So that's my biggest concern with this. But hey, if you're going to go all in, I'm fine with it as long as like James said, you got to have a direction. They have the direction now. Just go all in and don't play the game of like, hey, we'll do just enough. Like that has always been the way that they've worked, is let's just do enough. Like, no. You can't play the just enough. You've got to go pedal to the metal, go all in, and see if this team really has what it takes. If it does, great. Then there are some. You never know what happens in the postseason. You get lucky, a ball hits a base, a pebble or something, and now all of a sudden you're in a World Series game. But if this team's not it, then you're just done, right? Like you tear the thing down and you got to restart. And I do think if this doesn't work out, there's no way Shohei's coming back. If they miss the playoffs, Shohei's gone. Like, and I know you want to play the loyal game and things like that, but he wants to win and he wants money. Those are the two things he cares about. If he's going to not win, he's not coming back. And if you're not going to give him the same amount of money the Dodgers are or the Mets are, you're not getting him either. So those are the two things he's going to care about. And winning is number one, I believe. And then obviously the money just allows him to know how valuable people think he is. So yeah, it is a big deal, and it's going to be interesting, but they're not done. They are not done. I think you got to go get two more pieces, at least one more really good pen arm to help strengthen this back end, because right now it's Estevez and Matt Moore has been good, but it'd be nice to get one more guy. And now you have Bachman and Joyce and those other guys, and a little bit less of stressful roles. And by the way, as we're in the middle of this, I have to mention, finally it happened. We don't have to talk about Tucker Davidson anymore. Thank you.
I was gonna go there. I was gonna be like, if we had like emojis on here, we give
that was my first thought.
A unicorn just flying across the screen.
Yeah. See, unfortunately, my Tucker Davidson is Luis Rengifo. Personally, I don't know why he's still on this roster.
Oh.
He drives me nuts. I mean, as much as I love his power when he does hit home runs, it's always nice, but just like his defense, and every time he makes a throw to first base from third, I always have a small heart attack. I'm not sure what to do about that, because he made the error last, was it when we almost blew the game to the Tigers, but didn't end up blowing it.
Yeah.
He almost started the cascade that caused the landslide. So yeah, that was my Luis Rengifo rant. But yes, Tucker Davidson's gone.
It was time.
Jared, you might as well jump in at this point, man. I mean,
it doesn't, and I'm going to regret saying this for a long time. The farm system doesn't matter at this point. You have one guy at this point who is not tradable. Well, two, if you consider Logan O'Hoppe, still that guy. But prospect wise, you have one guy right now, and that's Nelson Rada. That unless you are getting Shohei Ohtani back, you're probably not giving up Nelson Rada, in my opinion, to go and try to win. I think Nelson Rada has a chance to be very, 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 very good, and that's coming from one of the top guys with the Angels farm system. Everybody else you can go trade, and it kills me to say that, and you have to kind of tip the cap to Perry that he's kind of put himself in this situation.
Yeah, it's all the way up to 29.
Yeah, the farm system has gotten just good enough that you're able to go try to win. I know the farm system isn't good. I'm gonna be honest there with you. Like it's not good, but you've gotten it just good enough that you can go make some trades and go get better. I would have wished it would have been these last 2 years that they could have gotten really good. But at least you have a glimmer of hope of possibly making. And Fangraph says the Angels have a 1.3% chance of winning the World Series and a 21% chance of making the playoffs, and they have to jump over everybody in the AL East, almost everybody, not the O's, but almost everybody in the AL East to make the playoffs and as a wild card spot.
You don't have to jump over the Yankees, you only have to tie.
That's fine. You don't have to jump over the Yankees, what they said.
Or the Red Sox, right? Because we have the season series against the Red Sox, don't we?
Yeah. Regardless, you still have to.
There's Toronto still sitting there. Toronto series is critical.
You still have to go and you still have to go and you have to go be a above 500 team over these next 10 series. These next 10 series are not easy. So that's why you need to go all in. And if I need to go ahead and pull up these next 10 series It's not fun, and I'll get them
Yeah,
here for you in
yeah.
a second if you want. But
Toronto. It's Toronto, Atlanta, Seattle, San Francisco, Houston, Texas, Tampa Bay, Cincinnati, New York, Philadelphia.
New York Mets, and every
But
single
honestly,
one of
only
those
two of those teams scare me.
What?
I mean, they can compete with all of them.
Who
Listen, I'm
scares
not
you?
saying they're gonna. Listen, I'm not. Oh my gosh! Don't take what I'm saying out of context. I'm not saying. I'm saying there's only two of those series I'm walking and going. You might get swept. Okay, that's all I'm saying. I'm saying that Atlanta on our pitching. Okay, and then there's, obviously Houston and Texas give us problems, but
Tampa Bay doesn't scare you?
not right now. They don't.
Oh,
They can't
man.
hit for
Man.
crap right now.
Tampa Bay will
they're a
out,
mess right
Tampa
now.
Bay will outscout
Now,
us.
If
Tampa Bay will
Tampa
outscout
Bay,
us.
if Tampa Bay comes around, then yes, they scare you. But right now, Tampa's been playing like crap for over a month, dude. This is not like they went in the cold something last week. They've been horrible for a month. So who knows? A month.
This is very, and I want the Angels to win so bad, but this is very Angels-like, right? Like, we're excited that they swept the Yankees. The Yankees came to town with their AAA team. Didn't have Judge. You didn't see Garrett Cole. You saw Carlos Rodon on his rehab assignment. Basically, they didn't come with their best team, and the Angels swept him. Fantastic. Before that, the Angels lost 3 of 4 to Houston, or did they lose 2 of 3 to Houston? Embarrassingly, they lost
3.
2 of 3 to Houston. Embarrassingly,
yeah.
they lost 2 of 3 embarrassingly, by the way, as well. They did not play mentally good. They are mentally incapable of playing good teams. Then you go and you play the Tigers. Shohei Ohtani pitched fantastic. They go and sweep the Tigers. That is absolutely fantastic what they just did. But it's the Detroit Tigers. They are not a playoff team. They went and they took 2 of 3 from Pittsburgh. Not a playoff team. Now you have an extremely hard part of your schedule right now. Extremely hard. So this is why you need to go all in, because you need to go actually be able to compete with these teams. You can't say that you're going to go compete with these teams. You need to go compete with these teams, especially if you're going to try to keep Shohei Ohtani, which that's a completely different podcast, and I'm going to give completely different opinions on that. You need to be able to go compete with these teams, and you have to mentally play strong, because they have not beaten good teams this year. A lot of their wins have come against very bad teams. And they've gotten very lucky too. And not to take what Nate says, because Nate, I love you and everything, but negative Nate comes out a lot when it comes to this stuff. They have not faced very good pitching. Like I said, they've gotten really lucky. They faced the Yankees, and they didn't have to face Garrett Cole. They didn't have to face Nestor Cortez. You had Carlos Rendon coming off of his injury. They didn't face anybody good. Aaron Judge is hurt. You go and you face Houston. You face good pitching. You can't do it.
Here's the counter argument to that. Okay, all right. You're talking about injuries. You're talking about the Yankees and so on and so forth. No team has had more people on the IL than we have this year. The Angels have. Okay.
Yeah.
So, when we're hammering the fact they've only beaten the bad teams, well, at least you beat the bad teams, 1. And 2, when you've had we've never even seen how good this team can be this year with the players they had, let alone they didn't have. The reasons why I think they decided to make this call is Mickey Moniak's playing out of his mind. Taylor Ward's bat's come alive. Renhefo's bat's come alive, James. I know you're salty right now.
I know.
But let's be real. He's hitting well. Okay.
That's true.
So
that's true.
It's sad that is hitting well, but sure.
But I mean, and we could sell the Tigers short, but they did this in Detroit, which is a total complete pitcher's ballpark.
That's true.
It's hard to hit there against anybody. Okay. So, I mean, they're coming alive at the right time. Those are the positives. Now, I got to be negative Nate here too and say, for real, it's not the bullpen that's scaring me. It's the starting pitching. You got one guy who can dominate. Maybe Lucas, if it goes back to his 2019 form. That's where I think they got to go. We're talking about bullpen help. Sure. Yeah. Outfielder help, maybe. Sure. But what I'm really concerned about is you need starting pitching in September. Who's for sale? Nate?
Yeah, here's the problem with that. We have so much invested in our starting pitching that we can't go get more starting pitching. So, I know that doesn't make any sense, but like Tyler Anderson, there's so much invested in Tyler Anderson. He's not leaving this rotation. The way the thing's going to work out where September and August, like Silseth is probably going to make 3 starts in August and September, like 3 to 5 starts. They're going to try and make sure Shohei Ohtani pitches. as much as possible. Like he's not going to be waiting off days if possible. So Silseth, he's going to be in that Jaime Barria like swing role. You just acquired Lucas Giolito. You spent first round pick on Reed Detmers, and what are you going to do? You're going to send Patrick Sandoval to the bullpen? Like you can't. So there's just too much invested in this starting rotation where there's not as much invested in the bullpen. Jacob Webb is a non-roster invite. You have Chris Davinsky, who's a non-roster invite. You have Matt Moore, who's on a 1-year deal. You have Esteves on a 2-year deal. So, like, they can get rid of guys in the bullpen, and you got a bunch of young guys, too, who you can move down, like Herget and so forth, whoever you want to go. I mean, there's a million guys you can move down from that bullpen. So that's my only issue with trying to go get another starter is there's a chance that to get another starter, you're going to have to give up a Silseth or a Sandoval, and you're probably only getting a rental. And that is really, really scary way of doing things. That is how you end up like the Phillies did or the Tigers are right now, where it takes you 10 years to rebuild this thing because you're giving up 5-6 years of a dude for 2 months of a guy when you're not even guaranteed to make the playoffs. Like just because you're trading for a guy doesn't mean you're in the playoffs.
Can I counter and say the Angels have been rebuilding for 10 years now too?
They have. That's fair. That is 100% fair. But
Right.
do you really want to be sitting in another 20, like another 10 years of this? Of like, oh well, we had Mike Trout. Oh well, we had Anthony Rendon. Oh well, we had Shohei Ohtani. Like, no, and Shohei Ohtani's not going to want to play for that either. So,
I mean, you go win a world, you go make it to the playoffs. You just go make it to the playoffs this year, and you don't hear about it anymore, right?
Yes,
you got to go make it to playoffs first.
I mean, I think
plus, like Jared said, that the farm system is absolute garbage. Like there's not a lot of yeah, you said it.
I didn't say garbage. I said it's bad.
Okay, when you're the 30th rated farm system in Major League Baseball,
I don't think it's fair at all, dude.
I was going to say it's the 31st. I was going to say it's the 31st best farm system in baseball, and there's 30.
I'm going to come in defense on this.
I think Baltimore is rated 1st and 30th. You could take out like half of theirs and put it back in, and it's still better than what the Angels are running out there.
I have some thoughts on that, but James, go first. I've been waiting to talk.
I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I think I agree with Nate. It is kind of starting, but personally, I mean, I don't know. A lot of what you guys have been saying, especially the last couple podcasts, is like how mentally weak they are. I don't know if that's actually the case. Like, to me, it's like the way they've been playing, like when they're hot, it seems like they actually are there mentally. And for me, it's really been the management that I think is tanked. Well, I mean, I can't really say it's tanked the season yet, but that is preventing us from becoming something. And so becoming like what we actually could be, because a lot of it, I just go back to bullpen moves. It's the same reason why I actually kind of liked trying to get rid of Madden last year, to see if we could get someone in there who could manage a bullpen. But I just worry that with whoever we get at the trade deadline, if we misuse them, then what's the point? Like then we're gonna set ourselves back even more. So like, I guess my big question going forward is, can they be good enough to where Phil Nevin can put anyone basically in at any given time and have them not fail? And that's probably too much to ask. And that's. And on top of that, the farm system stuff concerns me too. But like Jared said, I mean, you're moving from the 29th place farm system to the 30th. So, I mean, at this point, if anybody will take your prospects for hope
That's
this
the
year,
key. That's the key.
At some point, if anyone will take your prospects, which apparently the White Sox would, which makes me think that someone else probably would, maybe not for like a big arm or something, but if you can get a deal, I think you just have to do it, because you're not going to have really that many options. And the competition, and I mean, other thing is, I'm fine with giving up Caro and Bush for this package. I think that's fine. I think Caro was somewhat expendable, and I think he had enough value to where he was the guy you would offer to kind of overcome what other teams were offering. So to like put yourself ahead, if that makes sense. Like if the Dodgers were asking for, or if the White Sox were asking for, I don't know, the Dodgers like maybe like 10 and 11 prospects or something, the Angels went, okay, we'll give you Carroll, and the White Sox were like, great. And so, and I think that's probably why they gave up so much, is they just wanted to make sure that they did not get outbid for that package. But yeah, even then, it's like, is anyone A going to take our prospects, and B, can the management at least figure out how to put together a competitive team on the field without squandering the talent they have, which they've done for most of the season, and which is why we're not in a wild card spot, or we're not in the greatest position in the division. So yeah, it's that thing, is like, will anyone take our prospects, and B, can management hold it together?
Okay, I can't believe I'm actually defending management on this one. All right, because
Oh, boy.
I don't like talking about the reason why they're out of the wild card right now is because half the team's been injured half the year. Okay, and we're talking. Where was answer them, Nate, Jared? One of you two answer me this. What was the team ranked farm wise on opening day?
29th.
Not now, because post draft,
29th.
when you've pulled, I don't look at it this way, ranking or not. This team isn't even in contention without that farm system this year. They've had to draw over and over and over and over and over again from AA and AAA. And I go back, you've heard me talk about before, go back 4 years when they had to do the same darn thing in 2019, and the entire season collapsed by July 3rd, by the time Tyler passed away. It was done. It was over. It's not over now. Back then, you had guys you're bringing up who just didn't do it at all. At least you got guys who were either minor league invites, who were whoever, Joe Blow, Schmo, who have contributed from Lord knows where. So we could talk about being 29th, but whatever it did, it's done the job to at least keep them in position. And another thing I want to mention about this, okay, Lucas Giolito is 29 years old. He's from the area. There's a decent chance I re-sign him. 3, it's hard for me to look at all this, having been so, and I still was very pro trade Shohei, and think this team is not an old team. They're actually fairly young, and they actually, by going all in and spending money here, have time to rebuild behind them without killing themselves. The only problem is they've never done it before. The last time they did that, we had 7 years of hell. So there's to me, I don't think we're giving the farm system credit it deserves. And 2, is young. The team is young enough to where they can recover from going in. I'll just say that they'll have enough of a roster next year to move forward.
Yeah, and with the management, and with the whole management thing, it's like, I totally agree. Like, the way they've suffered with injuries, it's like if the Dodgers were without Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Max Muncy, and James Outman for like a month. That's like their entire offense right now, pretty much. Right? Am I missing anybody? I can't remember. But, and I get that, but it's like, I'm talking mostly with like the games that like you know that they should have won even when they were healthy. There was that one against the Royals earlier in the year.
Every team has those games, man. Every team has those games. This is Major League Baseball. Crap happens all the time. It always happens. Yeah. I haven't heard from Jared in a while. Jared, we're running out of time. Getting on closing thoughts. Yeah. Jared.
You defend the farm system a little bit more. You've brought up your contributors. You brought up your Neto. You brought up your Moniak was technically still a prospect. I mean, Trey Cabbage is up right now and contributing to the team. Stefanik is a prospect. Levon Soto is what it is. Colton Ingram is a prospect. Technically, Victor Medeiros has been up and down. I mean, just to continue going. Chase Silseth technically isn't a prospect anymore. Jose Soriano isn't a prospect anymore. Ben Joyce, Sam Bachman. I mean, the guys who you want to contribute, you've brought up, and the guys that you have, in a sense, wanted to trade away, you've traded them away. They've traded away 4 prospects too, and they've probably graduated another 4 or 5 prospects. So yes, I mean, to defend the farm system, yeah, that's probably not fair, but everybody's also doing this, right? Like everybody's calling prospects up. It's just the pure amount of prospects that you're able to develop. Like the Angels developed, I mean, they developed Kai Bush enough to go get a a starting pitcher, and Edgar Caro enough to go get a starting pitcher. Right?
Yeah.
You've been given that opportunity to go do that. So farm system wise, yes, like you've done it, but all teams do it still as well. So I mean, when's the last time we talked about them being a top? Not even, I mean, even with Shohei Ohtani, we didn't talk about them being a top 20 farm system, right? Like Shohei Ohtani was the number one prospect in baseball at one point, and that the Angels weren't a top 20 farm system. So regardless, rankings are what they are. I mean, it differs for everybody. What I want the Angels to trade, prospect wise, it's going to be different everywhere else. So that's my final thought on this side of stuff.
Nate.
This group's got to go all in. There's no more playing half in, half out. We can't play that game anymore. It's put up or shut up time. If you really want to be a playoff team, put your money where your mouth is. Win games in August. Win those series that you say we can compete in, because if not, then it's over.
All right, James, bring out time.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing it, and I am with them. Like, I might have sounded negative for most of this podcast, but I am happy that they're going all in. So what they need to do, they need to play with a chip on their shoulder, because there's even a small victory in the fact that they didn't trade Ohtani, no matter what our concerns are, in that they defied the expectations of every national media and talking head outside of Angels fandom for the most part. And to me, that at least should, they've got to play with that chip on their shoulder. And if they do that, that's going to give them enough. That's going to help give them momentum, because it's not just about managing on the field or calling up the right guys. It's the guys on the field. If they want it really bad, and if they can get that whole clubhouse to want it really bad, then that's going to go a long way. And they've just got to do that. So play hard and just go all and leave everything on the field.
All right, by the way, just want to note this as we close out. Entering this season, the Atlanta Braves had the worst farm system in baseball at 30, according to MLB's rankings. Houston Astros at 27. I mean, that's the cup they were in.
You can use the same argument you just used,
Yeah.
though.
I mean, I can't. My
that
point
Spencer
is
Strider guy is pretty good, and he was a prospect like last year.
pretty
So
good. But
I mean,
but
you can use the same
we're
argument.
making these arguments. We're making all these arguments on prospects. The question is, are they working for you? And ranked 30th or 1st, who the Angels had in their system this year, have worked for them. And that's my point. That's my point. Okay. We got 1 minute. So for all the guys here, for Jared, follow me on Jared _ Tims. James, I don't know your handle, dude. Real quick, go. We gotta go.
Handle is at JT Katsu Halos on Twitter. You can find me in all the posts that Jared tags whenever I post an article.
Okay, and at Nate Green 34, follow me at DC Ciapola. We're out of here. I'm sure we'll be back again for our trade. Peace.